Welcome, and thank you for standing by. All participants are on listen only until the question and answer session of today's conference. To ask a question, press *1 on your touch-tone phone, record your name, and I will introduce you. This call is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I would like to now turn the call over to Molly Reese. Ma'am, you may begin.
Great, thank you. And good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are, and welcome to the first installment of the 2016 TFCCI webinar series focused on smoking cessation, strategies to help your campus quit. So before we get started, I just want to point out that we're asking all participants to call in to the conference line for the audio portion of this webinar, and the number is listed here on the slide. But it can also be seen in the calendar invite that was sent to all participants. Next slide. So we're really honored to have such a great lineup of speakers for today's webinar. We'll first hear from Megan Jacobs, lead product design for the software development team in the Schroeder Institute for Tobacco Research and Policy Studies at Truth Initiative. Megan will provide some background on digital and social media approaches to young adult cessation, as well as share details about an exciting new mobile cessation app her team has developed that specifically targets young adults. We'll then hear from Alex Bell, Student Health Services Coordinator with Allen Hancock College in California. Alex will share details about the development and implementation of their on-campus cessation program. Lastly, we'll hear from Emily Claymore, ORISE Fellow with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Region 9 Office, who will share more information about the opportunities and resources available through the Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative, or TFCCI. Just a few housekeeping notes before we jump into the nitty-gritty. All participants are in listen-only mode, and we will have a question and answer section at the very end of this webinar that we hope you'll be able to participate in. So you can ask questions by typing them in the chat feature of the webinar technology. And so throughout the webinar, please go ahead and submit your questions, and then we'll take all of the questions at the very, very end. This webinar is also being recorded and will be archived and available through our TFCCI website at tobaccofreecampus.org, and that webinar should be available within 1 week. Next slide. So without further ado, let's get to our speakers. So again, leading us off is Megan Jacobs with the Truth Initiative. Megan wears many hats in the building, integration, and analysis of mobile and social applications for smoking cessation. She is currently lead integrated product design for the software development team in the Schroeder Institute for Tobacco Research and Policy Studies at the Truth Initiative. Her role there includes product management to develop novel quitting applications and interventions, project management of grant-funded research studies, and client management with external partners who use these products. Megan's previous public health work has applied technology to behavior change, ranging from adolescent sexual health to vaccinations. She received her MPH from the Milken Institute School of Public Health at George Washington University and is also a graduate of the University of Michigan. Take it away, Megan.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to have the opportunity to talk about our work in both developing and evaluating novel digital and social media interventions for young adult smokers. Some of you may have been on the Smoking Cessation Leadership Center's November or January webinars about young adult social smoking and using social media to intervene with this audience. So this topic may be a little bit more familiar to some of you, but for others, perhaps this is newer ground, and I'm eager to share our findings with you. Next slide, please. This slide gives us a really nice overview of why young adults are an especially important target for tobacco cessation interventions. Traditional prevention and cessation interventions have largely failed to address the unique ways in which young adults use tobacco and the unique aspects of young adulthood itself that need to be considered in a cessation approach. Data is available showing that half of young adult tobacco users are social smokers who report primarily using tobacco in social situations or when drinking. And so to the extent that young adults have already begun using tobacco products, prevention interventions are likely to miss the mark, and yet traditional cessation messaging that's geared toward established smokers may also not really resonate with how young adults view their smoking habits. As you know, this is a time of huge developmental transition, reaching the age to vote and marry and buy tobacco, and obviously relevant for you all, starting college and moving out of their childhood homes. And perhaps most importantly, they're beginning to establish their self-identity as a young adult. And so novel interventions that account for these unique factors and that acknowledge that young adults are inherently different than older adults are needed to alter this pathway of smoking progression among this audience. Next slide, please. This is just a brief slide to give a sense of what I'll be talking about in my work at the Schroeder Institute in using digital and social media to reach young adult smokers. Over the past 18 months, my team has developed a mobile app called This Is Quitting that is specifically designed to address many of the challenges I just mentioned. So as we're going through, kind of keep this in mind, I'll be talking specifically about the mobile app and its features and functionality and evaluation, as well as how you can implement this on your college campus with the smokers that you serve. I'll also be talking today about the Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative and how Truth Initiative is supporting that effort around the country. Next slide, please. In these next few slides, I'll be presenting some of the latest data about the use of digital and social media among young adults, and we'll go through this somewhat quickly, but it does lay the groundwork for our intervention approach. Next slide. Young adults lead in virtually every category of technology use. Their internet use is at almost 100%, as is cell phone ownership, and the vast majority of those are on a smartphone. And anyone walking around a college campus these days surely knows that every young adult everywhere is just buried in their phone. Next slide, please. On the left is a chart that shows the various activities that people are doing on their smartphone broken down by age group. The light blue bar at the top of each category represents 18 to 29-year-olds, and if you quickly scan down this chart, you'll see that 100% of young adults are using text messaging and that they lead in virtually every other type of activity. Most relevant to this presentation, we see about halfway down that 91% of young adults are using some type of social networking service on their smartphone. On the right are historical data over about the past 10 years, and this graph shows that young adults, here represented in the dark blue line, were the early adopters of social networking and are still the age group where social networking is the most prevalent. Next slide, please. This slide shows the relative uptake of specific social media patterns among internet users, with young adults highlighted in orange. Not surprisingly, they lead again on every single platform. There are no specific data for young adults on Vine, which is a newer social video platform, but given the use among teens, we can certainly expect to see this platform occupying a significant space in their future as well. Next slide. In terms of the available research on the use of digital and social media for cessation in young adults, next slide, please. There is compelling support for the effectiveness of smoking cessation interventions that are delivered via text messaging. A Cochrane systematic review by Robin Whitaker and her colleagues found an overall benefit of mobile phone-based cessation interventions in promoting 6-month cessation outcomes. And the study highlighted here by Rogers in 2005 focused specifically on young adults and found a significant effect for text messaging. Next slide, please. The evidence in support of the effectiveness of mobile apps in promoting cessation is just beginning to emerge. There are literally hundreds of quit smoking apps available on both Android and iOS platforms. A 2013 analysis by Lorian Abrams and her colleagues found that the majority of apps are not consistent with clinical practice guidelines. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not effective in promoting cessation. This is a nascent field, and we're still getting a grip on what translates from a clinical encounter into a digital encounter that's effective. There have been 5 published trials that we know of on mobile apps, and to our knowledge, there are 3 ongoing trials as well as our ongoing research. We've provided references at the end of my slides so that you can reference those studies later on. In general, these studies show promising signals, although they comprise small pilot randomized trials and mostly formative evaluations. Next slide, please. Not surprisingly, many public health organizations and probably many universities as well are using social media in an attempt to reach young adults. Some or all of you are likely using these to engage with your student bodies, and maybe some of you personally are even involved in those efforts. Web 2.0 platforms have allowed health communication campaigns to evolve from being largely unidirectional, focused on disseminating their message, to being more about facilitating conversations among users who share common interests or struggles. And anecdotally, these programs appear to be successful in reaching and engaging young adults, but there have been very few published evaluations for us to hang our hat on. Next slide, please. We have a relatively unique team here at the Schroeder Institute. Whereas many of our colleagues doing work in this area collaborate with outside technology vendors, we're fortunate to have a software development team that is fully integrated with our programmatic research. Next slide, please. The primary focus of our team is to develop a suite of scalable technology-based interventions for smoking cessation, conduct research to evaluate their effectiveness, and disseminate findings to the research community. We've deployed the products we've developed in a number of research collaborations, but we also broadly partner with organizations that are interested in providing these tools to smokers that they serve, and that includes colleges and universities. We follow an iterative product development process where we build an initial prototype, evaluate key process metrics, and then use these learnings to inform the next iteration of the product. This approach is designed to create products that aren't just based on good science, but also that are appealing and engaging to the smokers that we're trying to help. Next slide, please. So now, the point that matters, right? This is Quitting is a mobile app that we've designed for young adult smokers, and now I'm going to walk through what went into it, what it looks like today, and how you can put it on your campus. Next slide. Over the past 3 years, our team has engaged in a number of different qualitative efforts to learn more about young adults online. We've established an active and engaged presence on Tumblr and Twitter to observe what they're talking about and how they say it when it comes to smoking and quitting. And we've conducted focus groups and in-depth interviews with dozens of young adult smokers to learn more about how they identify as smokers, how they label their smoking, how they go about quitting, and how social media fits into that smoking journey. Because we see that young adults are smoking and they're quitting all the time, and they're very verbal about it on social media, posting thousands of quitting-related videos, tweets, images, and blogs about their quitting experience every second of every single day. It's been a very rich learning environment for us to see how young adults represent themselves online with regard to smoking and quitting. Essentially, every time they tweet or post or blog about their quitting, they're like a firefly flashing in the night saying, "I'm quitting. Did anyone see me?" Next slide, please. The key things we've learned from all of this formative work are as follows. Some young adults have social support, but accessing it is perceived as high risk. So they'll say things like, "My mom would support my quitting, but then I'd have to tell her that I smoke." For many young adults, their quitting success is personally defined rather than clinically. So they'll say things like, "Well, as long as I only smoke 1 or 2 cigarettes when I'm really stressed, that's fine. I'm still quit," as opposed to our definition of 7-day point prevalence abstinence. Some young adults don't feel like there are quitting resources for them, and they're not very experienced quitters, so they may not even realize that there is such a thing as a quit smoking resource, whether that's a quit line, a website, an in-person program offered at a campus health center, a patch, a pill, or an app. Next slide, please. All of this has informed the intervention we've put together called This is Quitting. The metaphor for the design elements of the intervention is that quitting smoking is like a boxing match. It's a beautiful and, quite frankly, sometimes very brutal struggle. Quitting smoking can kick your ass, but we're going to put the whole internet in your corner while you train to quit like a pro. This app brings young adult quitters together to help each other out and give each other advice, commiserate with each other's failures and celebrate each other's successes, and to know that many, many, many other young adults are quitting too. Next slide, please. The core feature of the mobile app is a highly curated, infinitely scrollable social media feed of aggregated content that's been posted by real people about their quitting experiences from across the internet. We know that this kind of feature is one of the stickiest and most engaging features that keeps people coming to the app and increases the likelihood that they'll stay there. This is why websites like Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Reddit are all using a similar style feed, because it's very sticky. We know that new and interesting content is what young adults want when they download apps, and they seek out things to do to keep their attention occupied, especially when they're quitting. They're looking for something to do with their hands, particularly when they're bored. We manually select quitting-related posts from Twitter and Tumblr to import into the feed that's in the app. And this approach gives us complete control over what shows up in the feed. It's not automated based on hashtags, so we don't end up with posts about people quitting their job or quitting drinking Diet Coke or posts that are promoting smoking or selling things like e-cigarettes. This approach creates a positive social norm effect that conveys to young adults that other people are quitting too, and it inspires people to try different quitting methods that they maybe hadn't considered before when they see other people post about it. Next slide, please. The second core feature are training challenges. These are to get you in shape to prepare to quit, and they do things like teach coping skills, expose users to evidence-based methods like nicotine replacement therapy or text messaging interventions, and they give users something concrete to do, an action step, so that when they say, I want to quit smoking, but I don't know how, we can help get them started on that journey. Next slide, please. Through our companion social media properties, users can engage with us and our content even if they're not in the app itself, and we deliver unique messaging that is platform appropriate to keep users engaged in quitting through consistent exposure to cessation-related content in their social media feed. My experience in leading a Tumblr blog over the last 3 years, as well as our Twitter presence, cultivating engaged followers of over 3,000 people, has informed the foundation of this app, and it's been a way that we have daily one-on-one observations, interactions, and conversations with young adult smokers about their quitting experience. Next slide, please. In addition to the proactive outreach that we conduct on social media, we've also launched a text messaging program in tandem with the app. The program has been written by young adult quitters for other young adult quitters. And the program is similar to other evidence-based messages in that it enables users to set a quit date, deliver scheduled messages that are tailored to a user's cessation progress, and it allows users to access on-demand support that's tailored to their cravings and relapse. The difference between our program and other evidence-based text messaging programs is that ours has entirely been written by other users to pay it forward and help other smokers out. Next slide, please. We see some promising signals in terms of app usage and engagement. These data are particularly encouraging because we normally see a fairly steep drop-off and attrition in smoking cessation interventions where users are what we call one-hit wonders. So they come once and they never come back. Next slide, please. One simple measure of engagement is the number of times that users open the app. There are really no benchmarks for this kind of measure in smoking cessation apps specifically, but previous research on mobile health apps has found that about one-third of app users never open their app more than one time, whereas we see a little over 50% of our users are repeat visitors. Next slide, please. Our text message engagement is similarly encouraging, perhaps even more so, because it's more focused on actual cessation progress. Next slide, please. Compared to Michelle Ibarra's Stop Smoking USA, which was a text message program designed specifically for young adults, we see some metrics that are particularly encouraging for us. We see 90% of users set a quit date, even when they're not incentivized or required to do so. In addition to these metrics around users sending in a message to our platform and using the on-demand cope functionality when they're having cravings. We're currently running a small pilot study that explores the feasibility and reliability of collecting abstinence data from app users via text message, and we have small numbers so far, but we're encouraged by what we see and we're looking forward to publishing soon. Next slide, please. I want to spend a moment or two talking about the partnerships that we've developed with colleges and universities, including community colleges, historically black colleges and universities, or HBCUs, as well as traditional four-year colleges and universities. Next slide, please. Truth Initiative provides funding, $5,000 per year in the form of grants, as well as technical assistance to 54 community colleges across the country with the goal to adopt a 100% tobacco or smoke-free policy. Promoting cessation is a core grant element. Our grantees promote or provide cessation to the campus community, all students, faculty, and staff in the following ways. whether universities want to provide free or low-cost NRT or nicotine replacement therapy, disseminate quick kits and cessation brochures, creating videos of student testimonials, or creating campus pledges to stay tobacco-free. These are some of the different ways that our grantees are implementing tobacco-free campus policies, as well as actual policy crafting in coordination with student government and many times incorporating the higher levels of administration at the university to pass comprehensive tobacco policy. Next slide, please. At Truth Initiative, we have another web and text message-based program that's actually a better fit for faculty and staff called becomeanx.org, which we can customize in a lot of different ways to make specific to your campus community. Today, I'll be focusing on how This Is Quitting can be customized for university settings, but if you're interested in learning more about Become an X, I encourage you to contact me after the webinar. This Is Quitting enables a school login where students can actually log in with their school email address, and that activates a campus-specific version of the This Is Quitting app. And this also allows us to do reporting on a per-campus basis around both app and text message uptake and engagement. Next slide, please. Schools who partner with us get their own dedicated phone number for text messaging. This keeps schools' data separate from all other schools and also allows schools to promote the text messaging as a standalone intervention, even if students don't have smartphones or aren't able to download the app. Next slide, please. We can add custom content to our standard text message library that's specific to colleges. And just as an example, many of our HBCU partners have integrated in specific content around menthol usage, little cigars and cigarillos, and social justice topics that they have found particularly relevant. But we've worked with other colleges as well who want to incorporate custom content around resources that are available on their specific campus for students to access. We also allow partners to customize the slug, or that little identifier circled in orange, so that each message refers to your university. Next slide, please. This is just a brief slide of references. Again, I mentioned at the earlier set of slides about ongoing research that's happening. These are many of the studies that I referenced earlier in the presentation, so you can reference them later on and look to them for recommendations or particular research to substantiate decisions that you're making on campus. And ultimately, next slide, please. We're really excited at Truth Initiative to partner with colleges and universities across the entire United States to help them achieve their mission of smoke-free and tobacco-free college campuses. I encourage you to contact me either by questions at the end of this webinar or by email or phone directly on your own time with questions, or to find out how we can bring This Is Quitting to your campus as well. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Megan, for sharing information about the This Is Quitting and for offering support and assistance to campuses who are interested in integrating that into their on-campus programming. So as I mentioned earlier, please do feel free to submit questions using the chat feature, and we'll get to those questions at the very end of this webinar. But next up, we have Alex Bell. Alex is a registered nurse and received her MSN in Public Health Nursing from California State University, San Bernardino. She has worked for Allen Hancock College since 2007 and became the coordinator for Student Health Services in 2011. Her primary role is providing primary care medical services to students and coordinating the Student Health Services program. The program provides medical care, family planning services, mental health and personal counseling, acupuncture services, wellness education, and cessation services. She is also the corresponding secretary for Health Services, Association California Community Colleges. Alex, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited about sharing our tobacco cessation program and what we do at Allen Hancock College. Can I have the next slide, please? So I thought I would start by just telling you a little bit about our college. We are a California community college. We're located in the northern section of Santa Barbara County. So we're about an hour's north of Santa Barbara City and about 45 minutes south of San Luis Obispo, which has Cal Poly, and Santa Barbara that hosts, of course, UC Santa Barbara. We have approximately 11,500 credit students per semester, but the last couple of years we have seen a decline in our enrollment, but we are working very hard to increase our enrollment at this time to get those numbers back up. We do have 4 locations. Our main campus is located in Santa Maria. We have a health center at our main campus, and also at our Lompoc Valley Center, we have a health center there also. Solvang and Vandenberg Air Force Base are satellite centers. There's no health center there, but we see students at both of our other health centers from those locations. Last year, we were approximately 52% female enrollees, and we do have a high Hispanic population, and we had 60% Hispanic students enrolling. Our current campus smoking policy is basically no smoking on campus except for in designated smoking areas. That policy came into fruition approximately 2002 with the help of a grant, and we were kind of leading in our smoking policy at the time. Unfortunately, I feel like we've slipped behind. We've tried to go tobacco-free probably about 5 years ago, and that failed. But we do have the no smoking except for in designated smoking areas at this time. Luckily, we were able to include the language for e-cigarettes to our policy last year, and that's been very helpful for our campus. We participate in the National College Health Assessment every 3 years, and so in 2013 was the last time we did the survey, and those results show that our smoking rate on campus is about 14.7%, reporting any tobacco use in the last 30 days. We will be repeating that here in this semester, so I look forward to seeing what the data will show for this semester, and the NCHA has added e-cigarette questions, so that'll be very interesting to see when we get that data. What's really exciting about the NCHA is that they also ask questions about perception. So as you see, 84.5% of students, that's the rate that they think students smoke on campus. So the perception is that we have a very high smoke rate. In fact, though, our percentage is 14.7%. So I just think that's really interesting. It shows how important social norming can be. Can I have the next slide, please? So our cessation program is supported by a grant from our Santa Barbara County Public Health Department. We work very closely with them. They have support us, and we have received that grant since 2002. And we're very proud of our relationship with our County Public Health Department. They support us with training and our NRT supply. So what happens when a student comes into the health center and they want to quit smoking? What we do is sign them up through our program, and that includes up to 8 sessions of counseling with a tobacco cessation counselor. All of our nurses, our mental health counselors, and our medical assistants have all gone through tobacco cessation training, and they're all trained and ready to assist students with their cessation needs. The student also receives up to 4 weeks of nicotine replacement therapy for free. That would be their patches, lozenges, or nicotine gum, whatever we find to be appropriate for that student. If they require nicotine replacement treatment after the 4 weeks, we can get that for the student at a reduced fee. So that's very helpful for us. There's other incentives for the students like gift certificates, granola bars, and stress balls, and whatever fun things we can get our hands on, we have that available. We do ask students to pay a $20 support fee, and we feel that's important because lends to the student feeling an ownership in his or her own program. However, we don't want that to be a barrier for students. So on a rare occasion, we have waived the fee. I can think of one example in particular. We had a student who was homeless and was not paying for their own cigarettes. They were literally picking up cigarette butts off the ground or out of ash cans. So we thought that would be a very appropriate thing to do, is to waive her fee. Otherwise, we can do payment options and other options for the student. We want to, create a program that's open. Can I have the next slide, please? Our program is developed and training we get from all different kinds of resources. Primarily, our county public health department helps us with training and the outline of our program. But we use a lot of written materials from our California Smokers Helpline. They have a lot of flyers and different written materials that we use. The Smoking Cessation Leadership Center is a great site for training and information. CYAN, which is the California Youth Advocacy Network, we work very closely with them, especially with events such as the Great American Smokeout and Through with Chew. They provide lots of information and giveaways and handouts. Of course, Tobacco Free College Campus Initiative has been helpful. They have lots of great information on their website and been very supportive. And RX for Change helps us devise our nicotine replacement therapy protocols. Next slide, please. So expensive, hiring a professional actor dressed as Death to stalk his every move finally broke Ted of his smoking addiction. I like this slide only because it reminds me to stay flexible. Ideally, we love when students come in and are able to follow our program step by step. We find it is more successful if students come in and they have that moment to prepare to quit and really talk about their challenges with nicotine, and we help them devise ways to prepare their homes, prepare their car and everything. However, many times students come in, they are ready to quit right then and there. They want a patch, they are motivated, and we need to remember to meet the student wherever they are in their change stages and be flexible. So many times we will muscle through a long session to get them caught up so that they're ready, and we can create a program where they get their needs met. Next slide. So we market our program many different ways. We have flyers that we post in heavily trafficked areas all throughout campus. We have a Facebook page that we use for all of our events and information, but primarily we do use a lot of Facebook posts for smoking and advertising and marketing for our smoking cessation program. We have a college website and a health center web page within that college website where we have links to cessation programs and help quit lines and information. Student Health 101 is a digital wellness magazine that we subscribe to. They periodically have nicotine and cessation information articles, and we always have our flyer posted in that digital magazine that students have access to. There's a new edition every month, and it's a 10-month subscription, so students have access to that. Class presentations are vital. I do a student health services orientation, and it's very popular, and I probably do several a week and have access to 80 to 100 students quickly, where I tell them all about our services and spend a lot of time talking about our cessation program, our campus smoking policy, and a lot of information gets passed that way. I also send all staff emails to our faculty and staff promoting the program, which we also have available for faculty and staff not just for students. We have that open for faculty, staff, and all students. We always participate in the Great American Smokeout and through with CHEW just to have information and quit kits, but it's a great way to market our program and entice students to come in and check it out. We have student workers that work at the Student Health Center, and this has been a very successful activity. I train them to canvass the campus and walk around and see if they can find smokers who are smoking outside of the designated area. And what they are supposed to do is talk to them in a kind way and educate them about our policy on campus, show them where the designated smoking area is, and hopefully get them to go over there and smoke. And then at the last minute, tell them, when you're ready to quit, we are here for you. Here's a program at the health center. And then they also go and visit smokers who are using the designated smoking areas. We have a gift of appreciation, whether it's a bag of chips or some mints or gum or something like that, and tell them that we thank them for using the designated area and complying with the policy. And when they're ready to quit, we are ready for them. And here's information about our cessation program. So that's been very helpful. November, we have a large veterans event, Veterans Appreciation event. And so we tried this past November to waive the fee for a month to entice people to come in and try our program, and then to waive the fee for veterans for the year. So that was helpful. It was interesting. We had some good feedback with that, but we're always trying new ways, new ideas to market the program. Next slide, please. So you can see some of the numbers of utilization for our program. Our grant asks that we follow up with students at 3 months after their quit date and at 6 months. We find that students who are able to complete the program are usually a high rate of those students are smoke-free at 6 months. If they relapse after their third or fourth session, and then they are usually lost to follow-up at that point. So you can see that our numbers have been dwindling, and I really contribute that to our own staffing issues here at the health center this current year and the last year, and our inability to send out our student workers to canvas, because I believe that really has brought a lot of students into the program. So we're trying to increase that this semester. We've already had one more enroll in the program, so you can increase that too to a 3. So we're happy about that, and hopefully more students will come in before the semester's out. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so thank you so much for allowing me to share with you a little bit about what we do here at Hancock College, and I look forward to your questions later on. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex, for sharing your experience in developing and implementing an on-campus cessation program. I just want to make a quick announcement. First of all, apologizing. We know there's been some troubles logging into the webinar, and a cancellation notice may have just been sent out to some of you due to some technical errors. So for those of you who are on the phone but aren't able to access the webinar, you should have just been sent an email with a copy of the PDF. But I also do want to remind you also that the full webinar is being recorded and will be archived on our website within 1 week. So, excuse me. Now I want to turn it over to Emily Claymore. Emily is an ORISE Fellow with the HHS Region 9 office based out of San Francisco and a regional advisor for the Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative. Emily will be talking more about the initiative and what's available to you all as you work to create policy change on your campus. Emily, take it away.
Thanks, Molly. Happy to be here. Happy to share a bit more about our initiative. But first, some background. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services created the initiative, the TFCCI, in 2012, following the Surgeon General's report that showed 99% of people who smoke start using tobacco before the age of 26. Next slide, please. Thus, college and university campuses are a critical target for tobacco use prevention and cessation efforts. This initiative was launched by former U.S. Assistant Secretary for Health, Dr. Howard Koh, University of Michigan President Mary Sue Coleman, and other educational and tobacco policy experts. Today, it remains a partnership of the Health and Human Services, the American College Health Association, the University of Michigan, with lead sponsorship from the Truth Initiative. The initiative creates a network that allows us to learn from each other, share resources, and help educate us to the importance of tobacco-free policies. Next slide. And as you can see, smoke-free campuses over the last 10 years have significantly increased. And in just the past 3 years, there's been a 90% increase. In 2012, 774. And as of January, 1,475. And of these 1,475 smoke-free campuses in 2016, 1,128 were tobacco-free, with 802 prohibiting the usage of e-cigarettes anywhere on campus. Next slide. So with this encouraging trend, however, comes a discouraging disparity between our four-year institutions and our two-year institutions. Four-year institutions are actually twice as likely to have smoke-free campus policies in comparison to their two-year counterparts. And this is important when you think of the fact that 17.9% of those with associate degrees smoke, compared to 9.1% with undergraduate degrees. Community colleges serve almost half the undergraduate students in the U.S., many of whom are from low-income populations, many communities of color, and many who are first generation. Next slide, please. Tobacco-free institutions of higher learning are a priority area for our current Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, who believes every campus in America should be a model of healthy living and believes tobacco-free policies are a terrific way of achieving this goal. Next slide, please. So with this background in place, I want to dive into how the TFCCI can help you create a healthy campus. Whether you are just starting the tobacco-free conversation or bringing awareness to an existing campus policy, the TFCCI encourages you to take a one-day stand. This one-day stand campaign that we host twice a year encourages campuses to adopt a 100% tobacco-free policy for one day. And the days that we do this are in observance of the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids Kick Butts Day, which is coming up March 16th, and also the American Cancer Society's Great American Smokeout, which is in November. We're proud to say that on our last one-day stand, over 70 campuses participated nationally. And by hosting a one-day stand event on campus, these colleges and universities encouraged campus community members to quit tobacco. They raised awareness of the dangers of tobacco use, and they promoted smoke and tobacco-free campus policies that ultimately led to a healthier campus. Next slide, please. So to help you take a one-day stand, the TFCCI provides customizable signage, sample surveys, talking points, press release templates, social media ideas, and much more. Campuses that register their event with us will also be recognized on our social media platforms. Next slide, please. And there's really no limit to what type of campus activities you can host. We've listed a few here. Tobacco turn-in events are great ways to bring people in. For example, students turning in a pack of cigarettes might be get a raffle ticket and be eligible to receive some type of prize, like a dentist teeth cleaning or a manicure pedicure, or gift certificates for new clothing. It's a great way to network with your local businesses and drive people to your event on campus. Another fun one is a breathing competition, which encourages people to purchase, you purchase the balloons and you host a competition to see who can actually blow up the balloon the fastest. A real tie-in to healthy lungs, and it's kind of a fun thing to do in a highly trafficked area. Next slide, please. Over the years, we've seen some campuses do some clever things. The University of Alaska in Anchorage, their chancellor actually designated November 21st as an official smoke-free day for their university. We've had colleges collect, Villanova in particular, 300 signatures of people pledging to be tobacco-free for the day, and also signing a petition to make the campus officially tobacco-free. We've also seen people focus on their designated areas, or if their campus already has a tobacco-free policy, focusing on those hot spots and providing people other things to do with their hands, bringing attention to cigarette smoke, bringing attention to cessation resources, and in this example, actually giving a hot cocoa giveaway. Next slide, please. I love the cigarette butt cleanup. This is an excellent thing to get everyone out. Great event to do on campus. It provides a very powerful visual for how many people smoke on campus, and it's a great opportunity to clean up campus grounds. It also provides a perfect evaluation tool. Many campuses conduct cleanup events before a tobacco-free policy or a smoke-free policy goes live, and this provides a baseline. And so they can conduct these cleanups post-policy implementation, and it really shows visually how well the policy is doing and also highlights maybe some problem areas. And of course, probably our most popular is health fairs, educational tables set up on campus for the one-day stand. This is also a great opportunity to network across your campus, find those potential allies to help you, as well as your local chapters of the Lung Association, Campus Society, Heart Association. These partners are willing to support your efforts, and it's a great way to bring people to your table, collect signatures in support of some long-term change. Next slide, please. And if that wasn't enough, the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids Kick Butt Day also has a database of suggested campus activity ideas. This year, we've actually partnered with them. As you can see, our one-day stand is second on their list of suggested activities. And campuses who sign up with our one-day stand will actually automatically be registered with the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. They'll be added to their event map to receive targeted follow-up from their media firm who provides media outreach technical assistance and also identifies high-impact events to highlight in state press releases. Next slide, please. Aside from the one-day stand campaign, the TFCCI is always here to offer you technical assistance no matter where you are in the policy change process. We launched the TFCCI Challenge in July of 2014 as a way to engage campuses in adopting comprehensive smoke and tobacco-free policies. The challenge is two-part. It provides technical assistance to campuses wanting to adopt and implement policy. Next slide. But it also recognizes strong policies that promote healthy environments according to the criteria you see before you. Next slide. Our website is a wealth of information on policy work. We have toolkits, guides, policy examples, and templates, many peer-reviewed research, federal resources, compliance and enforcement tools, frequently asked questions. Next slide. And a full page of cessation resources. Next slide. We're very excited. We have a Create Change Toolkit. This is our very own, designed to support students interested in advocating for and promoting tobacco-free policy. It includes a lot of tips, tools, and resources. If you haven't, I encourage you to check that out. Next slide, please. And of course, what you are all here participating in today, the TFCCI webinar series. All of our webinars featuring guest speakers are archived and can be accessed on our website. Next slide, please. Lastly, our initiative offers an advisor in every region of the U.S. to help answer your questions, connect you to peers, and help you on your way to a healthier campus. Next slide, please. So with that, we encourage you to take a one-day stand on March 16th. You can do that by going to our website and signing up. And of course, next slide. If you have more general inquiries, we do encourage you to contact us via the Gmail address you see before you, or just go to our website and check out all of the resources available to you there. Thank you so much. I'll hand this back over to Molly.
Thanks so much, Emily. And before we jump into the Q&A portion of the webinar, I just wanted to again thank all of our speakers for sharing their knowledge and insight of cessation programs. It's been a really useful learning about what resources are available and what others in the field have done. So thanks, Megan and Alex and Emily, for being with us today. Lastly, I do want to throw a special shout-out to all of our partners who helped promote this webinar and continue to be strong advocates for tobacco-free colleges and the TFCCI initiative as a whole. And a big thanks to our behind-the-scenes guy, Josh Prasad, another stellar TFCCI team member, for providing technical and logistics support for this webinar. So with that, I will actually turn it over to Josh to facilitate the Q&A portion of the webinar.
Sure thing. Thanks, Molly. And thank you to all of our speakers for doing that, for doing such a great job. Our first question is actually for Alex. So if you can just take your phone off of mute, Alex. You mentioned a decrease in the participation in your program due to some staffing issues. Were there other barriers to participation that you heard from students?
Okay, thank you for the question. I've not heard any direct barriers from students. I'd like to think that the decrease is because we don't have smokers on campus, but that's not true. I think our decreased enrollment, there's some physical changes on campus where the health center is now kind of farther away from the rest of the student services. So we have seen a decrease in foot traffic and just general people popping their head into the health center and, just seeing what we're about. So it could be a variety of different things that are impacting our enrollment, but one of the best tools that we have are our student workers, and I'm trying diligently now to get them back out there and get the word out and entice people to come in and participate.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful to know as we consider, as campuses on the phone listening, we're trying to consider their cessation programs as well, too. The next question we have is actually from Megan from the Truth Initiative. And it was actually really just a clarification. Is there a cost for the use or customization of the This Is Quitting app? And additionally, is there some sort of comparison chart or documentation that is available that compares This Is Quitting to other types of cessation?
Sure. I got a few different parts in there, so I'll try to address them, but please let me know if I leave anything out. So are there costs to the user? No. The app is free to download. It's available on Android and iOS. The text messaging is free to users as well. There may be charges depending on a user's text message plan, but there are no charges from us to enroll. As for charges to customize the program, we offer free customization at a very minimal level for our grantee schools, and we can make certain customizations available for other schools as well. Those typically do not come free of charge because there's development work that needs to go into making those customizations, but we generally work with schools. We don't have like a one-size-fits-all pricing. We work with schools to talk through what they want and what their specific needs are, and we put together a pricing that just recoups those costs to our organization. We're a nonprofit, and we're in this to help smokers quit and help college campuses achieve that. So this is not not trying to milk anyone for all they're worth here, but we are, do need to cover those costs from our end. As for a comparison chart, I'm unclear exactly if that means a comparison chart between what features our program offers compared to others or how those costs line up. I would be happy if anyone specifically wants to email me. My email address is mjacobs@truthinitiative.org. It's also at the end of my slides. So if you have specific questions, anyone on the call, please send me some clarifying emails, and I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks, Megan. I'm not quite sure what happened to Josh, but I'll go ahead and jump in with another question. This is for anybody, all of the speakers. I hear of many smokers who turn to e-cigarettes as a cessation tool. We aren't sure if these are an effective way to quit. What information or resources are out there to help educate and inform young people of this?
Hey, Molly, this is Emily. Our tobacco-free college campus website is a terrific source for information, particularly around e-cigarettes and other emerging issues that, influence and affect campus tobacco policies. So if we had you see the address before you, that URL at the bottom of the screen. And if you go there, you'll find resources from the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, on the regulation of e-cigarettes, also information from UCSF, the Mayo Clinic, and also Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights. There's a lot of different areas that e-cigarettes a lot of different questions that surround this. So for anyone looking for resources, I would definitely drive them there to our website.
And thanks, Emily, and sorry about that. I was on mute. Alex or Megan, do you have any additional comments or thoughts on e-cigarettes and how they fit in with your campus and with your app?
Yeah, this is Alex. We try to focus on the fact that they're not FDA approved for cessation, and that our program is, devised around research and FDA approval and those kind of things, and students buy into that. They understand that kind of language. I feel that on our campus, and specifically, I feel a shift about e-cigarettes. Before it was part of the policy and we were just starting to talk about e-cigarettes, people were more curious about them. But now when I engage with students, most of the feedback that I'm getting back is that they realize that this is just another product that can cause harm, and we need to wait and get more information. There's been a shift, at least from my perspective.
This is Megan. I'm happy to weigh in a little bit just about organizationally. The Truth Initiative has resources about e-cigarettes as well, and please refer to them in addition to all of what I'm sure are fabulous resources from the Tobacco-Free College Campus Initiative. With regards to our app itself, we support people trying to quit smoking in any way that feels comfortable for them, and we're pretty non-directive when it comes to we provide information about evidence-based resources like nicotine replacement therapy, but we never actively discourage people from trying to quit. If that means someone wants to try an e-cigarette to try to quit smoking, we're not going to tell them not to try to quit. They absolutely, we support people trying to quit while recognizing that there is still a lot of uncertainty, but we do see that for some people, sometimes, it can be an effective cessation method, and I certainly wouldn't want to discourage anyone from making that quit attempt. But we always encourage people that if that doesn't work, to come back to us, and we'll have some other more evidence-based resources to share with them.
Well, thank you both for those answers there, and we know it's still a hot-button issue, so there's going to be some dissent in ways people want to try stuff and to try and quit. And so as I look at the time, it looks like we're just hitting our hour now, so I just want to thank you all. Thank you both again for speaking. Thanks to Emily and Molly as well for doing such a great job running this webinar. And thank you all who participated and listened and asked such great questions today. Please do check back on our website, tobaccofreecampus.org, to learn more about the upcoming one-day stand on March 16th, as well as the archive for this webinar, which will be posted in about a week. Thanks again, everyone, for participating. We look forward to seeing you next time.